That was the Minister of Police, who was, of course, present in court today. We know that this is...
Thank you very much, Newsroom. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Minister.
All right.
So the Minister now leaving, of course, to his next appointment. But he's saying, Iman, that they are confident that they got this one, that they got enough evidence, that they have worked on it, and also just throwing to the community as well that the community has done a sterling job also in working together with the police. But interesting that he's saying that the community as well must remember that they have a role that they have played in all that has occurred. And of course, Iman, I'm going to try and just break down what happened in court. We heard that court at first that the suspect or the accused now had already said that he is against media broadcast, mainly saying that there is a safety issue, but also highlighting that he says he does not want his pictures being taken and his pictures being shared all over social media. Court arguing that that's already have been done because we also know, remember, that SAPS had taken out a picture explaining that this was a man of interest, and later also explaining to us that that is in fact the suspect. So already his picture was out there. And at the same time, we understand that court was saying that there's also a part of the community where a community has a right to also know what takes place in court. But we know that the suspect is going to be back for bail application. This is on the 1st of November. And he wants to apply, and that's what we heard from the police, saying that they don't understand why he wants to apply, especially because also his papers are not correct, which is something that we also heard from the beginning, that his papers, he was illegally in the country, having had that passport, but have no stamp that shows when he has entered the country, or rather when he left and he came back, because the time that is there in his passport shows that he was supposed to have left back and came back to the borders with a new stamp.
Nqobile, I think what's interesting as well is, and you put that question to him about whether he has prejudged the matter and whether that would be risky, notwithstanding the fact this is an horrific thing that has happened. There must be justice for Amantle, but to hear the police minister prejudge and almost ascribe a culpability, going as far as actually saying and putting himself in the family's shoes, you know, that if it was him and his family, he would want that suspect handed over to them. We saw, and you were right there the other day, when it almost evolved into a situation potentially of what we call mob justice in South African society, or vigilantism, that we have to at all points insist on the upholding of the framework of the law. And that was quite surprising.
Well, very surprising indeed. And of course, we have to put that question towards the Minister, Iman, because like you say, it was a volatile moment that we saw in Orlando, especially when we saw when they apprehended the suspect's friend, that the community was very angry. So when he explains that he also would have reacted the same way with regards to his family, it's becoming a sentiment issue. However, it is very important, of course, that we still look at how the law takes care of this case, especially also because the police have also been saying on the ground that people must toe within the line of the law, and that they mustn't take the law into their hands. But we're hearing that the police as well, from the police ministers, that even though they are referring to this man as a suspect, for him it's a matter of if this was his child, if this was his family member, they would want that moment to speak to this person and engage with this person, which is what we heard from the family as well. But Iman, I actually have Phindi Mjonondwane, who is the spokesperson of NPA, and I want to put these questions to her. Of course, the minister has already said that as the police, they feel confident that they've got enough to basically show that the person that was here is responsible for what occurred. Is this how NPA feels?
Well, we can confirm as the NPA that we have been provided with sufficient evidence. So we are also in a position to say that we do have enough evidence. There are prospects of a successful prosecution. So we are confident that we have evidence to sustain the charges.
And tell us the move for NPA to say no bail.
Well, it is a Schedule 6 offence. So it is upon the accused to convince the court that he is a suitable candidate to be released on bail. So the burden of proof in this instance lies with the accused. He's the one who must prove to the court that indeed there are exceptional circumstances for him to be released on bail. But as the NPA, we will be opposing his release on bail. We already know that he's illegal in the country, so we believe that those are some of the facts that we'll be presenting before court that are already working against his application. And furthermore, it's our stance towards gender-based violence cases, and we have been empowered as the prosecution, as you are aware that the President has signed some amendment bills, the gender-based violence and femicide bill. So we are further empowered and we are able to bring enough evidence to court to oppose the release of the accused on bail.
I like that you said that, but can you perhaps explain to us how has this empowered NPA?
Well, we have been empowered, as I've said, that there have been some changes in our laws, which works to our advantage as the prosecution laws that we can use as the NPA in our courts in opposing the release of such perpetrators. These laws support the stance of government towards cases of gender-based violence and femicide. It also empowers the prosecution in terms of the kind of laws that they can use in opposing the release of such perpetrators. We believe that they must be kept in custody until they are dealt with in accordance with the law. In fact, the laws actually states that they must be kept in custody unless they are able to come to court and divulge exceptional circumstances in cases of Schedule 6. And if they are able to divulge such exceptional circumstances, then the court can decide on whether or not they are suitable candidates to be released.
And before I leave you, he said he was worried about his safety inside and when we are broadcasting his picture and how that's going to affect him. Is there a way that he could be affected because of broadcast?
Well, it was within his right to oppose the media's application, but as a state, we were not opposing the application by the media to broadcast the proceedings, understanding that there is public interest in the matter, understanding that there is a rise in gender-based violence cases, and therefore the community and society as a whole, moreover the community of Orlando, they worked hand in glove with the police to ensure this apprehension of the accused before court. So they would love to see how this matter will end in court. And therefore, as the prosecution, we cannot stand in their way. They have a right to be informed as to what happens. And also, we have a system where we say there is an open justice system. So members of the public get an opportunity to learn more when such cases are broadcast.
Thank you very much. That is Phindi Mjonondwane. She is, of course, NPA spokesperson, Iman. And I think what she's highlighting there is also the fact that gender-based violence being an issue. You will remember that this is a child that was affected, a 6-year-old child indeed. And this is what she's talking about, how GBV has affected communities. And this is why they continue, of course, on their trajectory to ensure that they are opposing bail throughout.
Nqobile, Madlala, thank you very much. Live for us there outside the Protea Magistrate's Court.